Hello everybody and welcome back to the Eternal Sonata playthrough. It is time to begin our trek up the sharp mountains. And as you can see, it's incredibly snowy and blizzardy, and yet there is an active volcano at the top of these mountains. Which, to be fair, I don't quite know how this works. I know we're in Fantasyland, but this is sort of physically impossible. Like, obviously you can have snow at the top of the mountains, and you generally always will, because it's naturally colder the higher up you go. And so, particularly tall mountains are going to be particularly snowy. However, if you've got a volcano, which is actually active, then you kind of have a bit of an issue, because the heat of the volcano is going to melt the ice and snow, and it's not going to be there. Which, yeah, so a bit of an impossibility, this place, but we'll roll with it. Now, already I am suffering from the effects of that Skull and Bones piece of armour, because as you can see, what it's doing is it's stopping Salsa in her tracks for a couple of milliseconds, perhaps, but it's enough to be an absolute blighter. And I can tell you now that there was a period where I was just like, right, so it's clearly the Ezzy scarf that's causing me grief here, so I'll swap that out. I don't know why I didn't go to the Skull and Bones, because that's clearly what's causing the jip. It says it in the description, but I was a bit blind and a bit of a twit. So I didn't actually end up doing anything. Now, this is an Ezzy shrine, and yes, Ezzy is a sort of weird-ass sheep deity type dealio, and let's just say that, so in the PS3 version of the game there is an optional dungeon that you can do, and at the end of it is an optional boss, and that boss is actually like, it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's not hugely, I suppose, because you're not going to see it here. It's like a massive Ezzy. It's meant to be the real Ezzy, but it's like a massive one of those statues, and it looks ridiculous, and it sounds ridiculous as well. I think it's actually a relatively difficult fight, because he can constantly heal himself, and that's always a bugger. But it just looks so stupid. Like, I'm always down for a bit of a joke optional boss, don't get me wrong. But yeah, the Great Ezzy pushing it a little bit for me, I feel. Now, one thing that I feel I should point out, it's sort of relatively important, is that you're gonna want to be, I think it's about level 25-ish, before you get to the end of this dungeon area. So the Sharp Mountains, I would say, is technically split into two parts. You've got the Sharp Mountains, and then you've got an extra bit. And yeah, by the time you get to the end of that extra bit, you are going to want to be at about level 25, because you're going to run into a couple of boss fights which are certainly going to require being that extra little bit higher in terms of your leveling. You could probably just about get away with where, if you're following my levels at present, you can probably get away with where I am right now. By the end of it, it'd be decent. but if you can get just that extra little bit higher in the level, it's definitely recommended. But we are actually rapidly coming to the end of Chapter 4. And after we've hit that point, even though in terms of the number of parts we're nearing halfway through the game, like, the plot begins to really ramp up once you get... to be fair, it's mostly the end of Chapter 5 where things begin to properly hit the fan. But Chapter 5 is a really important one for quite a lot of characters, because obviously the whole point of chapters 3 and 4 is getting back home. The whole point of chapter 5 will be reuniting the crew, getting the band back together, and then after that we'll just have to see where the narrative takes us. But I will say that I do really like the sharp mountains. I'm not too sure about these icy bits that you have to cross, because it's not like they offer any challenge, so to speak. Because it's not like you're going to fall off them at all. It's just that you can't run up them, you have to walk, and if you stop walking you'll slide down. But why would you stop walking? So why are they a bother? So why are they there? Is basically my reaction to them, which I suppose, as a bit of game design, I don't understand its purpose, if I'm honest. I guess what they were attempting to do was say, well, in this sort of environment you would have these like icy bridges, you want to do that bit of world building, but gameplay perspective, it's not really necessary. Because you very often get instances where developers introduce game mechanics that really don't have any need to be there. And it's frustrating when things like that happen, because they've wasted time on something that they could have spent better elsewhere. And, oh, there's Spirit's Pathway. So yes, I've been using Sacred Signature. Now we get Spirit's Pathway. I think I'd said about Frederick having that number of parts ago and getting really confused as to whether he had it or not. This is the curse of guessing later on into the game, because obviously I've finished it now in terms of recording, but I haven't finished recording the commentary. So my brain immediately goes, oh god, where are we now? What moves do I have? And then go, oh, I don't rightly know. That's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? But it's fine. The Spirit's Pathway is definitely quite useful. Frederick does have one healing move that's better, and actually I would say that while I do love Viola's heal arrow, Frederick's ultra healing move is amazing and I love it. And I do like that in the later stages of the game you have much nicer options with regards to your healing, so that you're not just relying on either Viola or polka, really. You've got a few other options, and that's just quite nice. But we've reached a nice little break. I think we should head in, because it's clearly freezing cold right now.
Cold up in this mountain. My nose won't stop running. It is kind of cold. Why don't we all rest for a while in this little lodge?
Huh? Who in the world would be flying a kite all the way up here on top of a mountain?
That's not a kite, it's a dove. But I'm surprised to see one flying over a cold, snowy mountain like this. It's strange. Who cares about a bird at a time like this? Let's just go inside already.
So Claves became enamored with him, even though she knew she couldn't escape her deception, and that he'd eventually learn she was a spy. Oh well, once we have an endless supply of insane soldiers, there'll be no need to spy on Andantino.
What about the one in Baroque?
You mean Serenade? No, she's very dependable. And besides, her interests coincide with mine.
What do you mean?
Forte would be in a difficult position if we were to be attacked before we finish developing a more powerful mineral powder. Even when Serenade marries into Baroque, she is still a princess of Forte. She's the perfect person to prevent Baroque from starting a war with us. She won't let them follow a path that could harm Forte. More importantly, Feud should be searching Agogo Forest for glowing Agogos. I want you to go there as well, and if he's slacking off, give him some encouragement.
Yes.
It's so warm in here. There's something familiar about this place. It reminds me of my home in Tenuto.
What's going on?
Well, you see, each and every one of us has a jewel inside our hearts.
A jewel?
That's right. And that jewel is called an astra. For some people, it glows very brightly, but for others, not as much. Nevertheless, everyone has one. I wonder how much your astra is glowing.
Well, there were some cookies I ate without asking you, so... maybe mine's not glowing. I'm sorry.
Ah, so it was you that ate them. But you told me the truth, so it's all right. I'm sure that your astra is still glowing.
I don't know. I'm kinda worried. Hey, Mommy, do I still have time? If I do a whole bunch of good things, will it glow even more?
Of course it will.
Then I'll start tomorrow.
Oh, you won't start today? Oh, Polka. Your astra is glowing, but it's glowing far too brightly for this world. It's glowing so brightly that it is unconsciously leading you toward a deep darkness, one that must be illuminated. And then someday, the time will come when the abyss of the sea will open up before you. Oh, I wish, how I wish you weren't the only person who could bring light to that dark ocean floor. If only there was someone else who could take your place, then it really wouldn't matter if your light ever dimmed.
Polka, what's the matter with you?
Hey, are you feeling all right?
It's nothing. I just felt dizzy for a minute. That's all.
Well, the mountain air up here is very thin. Perhaps that was what caused your dizziness.
Thin air, huh? Now that you mention it, my head has been hurting too.
I guess it's just time for us to take a break. My legs are all worn out from all that climbing anyway.
I agree. Let's try and get a little rest before we continue on, all right?
I'm being led toward a darkness that must be illuminated? The abyss of the sea will open before me? What does it all mean?
So, spies, intrigue and mystery. It's all happening in the plot right now, isn't it? And also, obviously, we have begun to place a few things in terms of when the narratives are converging, because we saw the dove flying, and obviously that was the one that Clave sent towards Baroque before she shuffled off this mortal coil. And we've also found out that Serenade, the beautiful princess, is a spy, which is not very good either. We really do need to try and sort all this out, I feel, but our first port of call is to go into the massive active volcano. Great move, innit?